Morning, everybody.
Morning. Jesse, how are you?
Hang in there, Manny. Doing pretty fantastic, actually. How are you doing?
Good.
Good to hear.
Nice to see you.
Likewise, always.
Everybody's coming in slowly, eh? I think maybe I'm going to start the meeting, or should I wait till
Maybe wait 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Should we wait 2 minutes?
I think so.
Okay. So Vanessa, you're going to stay for a little while and then you're going to quit?
No, I'll stay on.
Okay. Yeah, because are we recording this?
Yes, we are.
Good. Thank you. Morning. Well, how are you?
Good morning. I'm doing fine.
Good. Nice to see you.
You too.
Thank you. We're just waiting for a couple other people. I guess there is 22 registered, Vanessa?
This morning there was 32.
32.
Majority of the people are already here.
Okay, should we start then?
I think so. I'll let people in as they come.
Okay, so let's get started. Good morning, everybody. This is our second roundtable, and I'm very pleased that there is good participation in these things, and I think we will continue to bring topics which interests everybody, and you can email us or talk to us anytime about the topic you want to bring. But today's topic is harvesting methodology and seeding varieties. And I think I have requested Aaron Barr, as you know, you all know him, the CEO of Canadian Rockies, and he has kindly agreed to conduct this session. So Aaron, if you're ready, I'm going to pass on to you the stage, and let's get the discussion going.
Sure. Sounds good. Well, thank you, Manny. Morning, everyone. And yeah, I think the purpose of today's call is just really understanding methods out there, what everyone is working on for harvesting both the fiber and dual purpose. We've seen a magnitude of different ways to skin the cat, so to call it. I know just in ourselves, we've used disc mowers and single level sickle mowers and swathers and multi-level sickles. All have, you know, their pros and their cons. And I'm not sure, is Peter on this call? I can to see if I can scroll down. No, I don't see Peter. Hopefully he jumps on later as well too. Peter's selling the Lithuanian multi-level sickle mowers, which I think are also a good option. So yeah, just wanted to have, I guess, a roundtable discussion with everyone on the call, what they're currently using, what they're currently seeing as a shortfall, any questions everyone has. Obviously, whether you're harvesting it for seed or dual purpose or specifically single purpose fiber, there's going to be different harvesting methods associated with all of them. So yeah, just want to maybe open up the floor, and if anyone has any specific questions or things that they're concerned about in the industry or things that they've had really good success with, let's put them on the floor.
Well, I was thinking, Aaron, if you want to kind of give a little briefing of what you're doing in harvesting and how you're developing your own methods and stuff like that, maybe that will open up a little bit, or if people are ready, fine.
Yeah, I mean, what we've seen, obviously, swathers have been used. I mean, I don't know if I can just, Manny, do you want me to share any pictures? Does that help with anything?
Sure. Can people see it?
Can you see that?
Yeah.
So yeah, so using a swather can be done when you have a crop that's, you know, 8-ish feet tall. Once we start to see when you're seeding at, you know, above 35 pounds an acre in a decent growing year, and you gain a lot of biomass, it's a lot of material to feed through that swather, even if you have a 25-foot, 30-foot header on it. But the tough part is, as you see, is it creates that windrow right off the bat. So to get even retting and drying is quite difficult. So you can still use tedders and rakes and flip it, but putting it into a window right off the bat just makes for very uneven stalks, which the decorticators and the end manufacturers do not like. So although this is a method, and maybe if you've removed the tops and you just have a 4-foot stalk left, this might also be an option if there's a lot less biomass. But again, you're restricting yourself on the quality of that straw, which is then resulting in the quality of the fiber that will then be decorticated. So we've tried the swathers, and I'll share another picture. Share screen, this one. So this is our high clearance multi-level sycamore that we had built last year. This is our version 2 last year. So because we have some pretty uneven, rough, rocky fields in northern Alberta, we built a unit that had a walking beam dual axle. So it allowed us for a lot more stability going through some of these fields. And same thing with the clearance. So that's why that deck is so high. So we built 3 of these last year exactly like that. We're building actually 5 more that are similar to this for this year. And we've had really good success with these. And this would be similar to what Peter's, the Lithuania unit would be. His is a little bit heavier in a single axle. So I think it works well in smaller fields, or if you're looking to do 500 to maybe up to 1,000 acres, if it's a good harvest weather. But I think there's limitations on just doing large scale harvesting with some of the existing equipment out there. And that was why we built this one. So this one is a 12-foot wide cutting bar. And depending on the height of the crop and depending on the cutting length that we want. So we cut between 60 centimeters up to 100 centimeters. So we can adjust that bar length in our cutters. And then again, we can fold in or out any bars if the fields are short or tall. But yeah, I don't know, does anyone have any questions, I guess, in particular so far, what they've seen, and any comments, I guess, about cutting with sycamores?
Hello, everybody in. Can somebody give some comments, get this discussion going?
Nothing. This is the preferred method. This works great. So, I mean, we're actually working with Rouse sycamores. They're based out in Nebraska, I do believe. They currently make single level sycamores that work quite well. And we actually have modified theirs in the past to be multi-level. So we're actually working with them to hopefully produce a commercial unit available through them. We don't obviously want to continue being in the fabrication industry and just building harvesters. This year, having 9 of them is going to be enough of our own to deal with. So going forward, if this industry is going to grow, this needs to be a conventional cutting tool or an implement that is readily available, or other attachments that work from other people's experiences. We tried the Case disc bind with their so-called high stubble kit and a couple other attachments that they recommended to cut hemp stalks. And although it worked in principle, it really caused a lot of shattering of the stalks, and it left a significant amount of the herd in the fields. Great for soil, bad for processors and really farmers at the end of the day, because you're losing a significant amount of biomass and you're getting paid on yields. So you obviously want to remove as much of those stalks as you can for both payment and for hassle the next year on seeding. So we find that the multi-level sickle allows for really good dry down and retting, because you're not putting it into a windrow right off the bat. So depending on where you are, depending on the weather, the amount of moisture, how long you're trying to ret that for, will be the difference in between your cutting time and your tedding time. So we generally will tet anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks after cutting, just to flip all that stalk up, just agitate it and expose the underside that would be facing the ground. Then we will wait another 1 to 2 weeks, and then we will then rake that into the windrow and then bale. So we had some really good success just with raking and baling just all in a line last year. We were fortunate enough that 10 to 15% moisture was a really easy target to hit. And so therefore baling was actually quite easy. Once we were able to get a good dry down, have all the stalks cut to our preferred length, and then baling was relatively straightforward. So this year, yeah, so maybe this will be a good time to, so for this coming season, our goal is 15,000 acres of single purpose, what we call young fiber. So that high seeding density and then harvested before seed set. So we're aiming to do 15,000 acres of that around our Bruderheim facility. Kind of before we were doing 150 kilometer radius, we're actually probably going to stretch that this year to 250 kilometers because we're handling all the trucking now. So we do all the bale hauling. So it allows us just to be a little bit more economical on the hauling side. So we're able to expand our region a little bit more. So this year we just actually submitted a RDAR project, research-driven agriculture. What does RDAR stand for, Manny?
Research-driven agriculture, agronomy research.
Okay, yeah, RDAR is way easier. Yeah. So in that application, we submitted to do a full hemp fiber variety trial on a commercial level. So we proposed the 15,000 acres worth of commercial trials that'll consist primarily of 5 varieties. And those 5 varieties are going to be Grandma through Fresh Hemp Foods, which is what we grew primarily last year, which is a dual purpose variety. Anka, Altair, that are both from Uniseeds. We're also going to try some Vega through Fresh Hemp Foods, Manitoba Harvest. We're able to get a little bit, as much as we've ever been able to get of Silesia from Jan at Initech. Uniseeds is now licensing that one, and they have about 10 acres that they're going to be providing to us this year to have in our plot trials. So Grandma, Anka, Altair, Vega, Silesia, and then plus we have 3 Ukrainian varieties that we've brought over through the Bast Institute, that 2 are dual purpose varieties with some really good fiber characteristics. And then 1 is a monaceous specific fiber variety. So those 8 varieties are going to be in our trials this year. And those trials are going to consist of both soil. So what soil types, what is the pre-crop that was seeded the year before, what is the current fertility, and then all the different soil types that we have in our region, which is actually quite vast. And then we're going to be doing work with the different agronomists from each one of the seed companies to really understand fertility, recommendation packages based on soil types, previous crop, but then also the whole management of that crop during cultivation. When is the ideal time to harvest it for fiber quality? And then harvesting it through this specific type of harvester to keep a consistent fiber quality. And then once that is then harvested, it'd be brought to our facility for then decortication through our long fiber decortication line, which allows us to really segment the fiber, the herd, and the screenings so that we can truly measure the bast fiber content in those varieties. What is the true resulting tonnage per acre? And then what is the actual quality of the fiber being produced in the end? So we're pretty excited this year. This will be kind of the first trial of this magnitude that really analyzes right from the soil to then the resulting fiber that is actually processed. So I think this information will not only give producers, but manufacturers a lot of valuable information to really help us continue to grow this industry. So we've submitted that RDAR project. If we do get funding for RDAR, we will then be making the results of this project fully public. So we'll be making it available through Alberta Hemp Association plus the CHTA, and obviously all of our growers. So we're obviously prepared to make investments, significant investments through Canadian Rockies ourselves. But if we're able to get some good government support to expand our project, then we'll definitely be willing to make all the results of this project public. So yeah, some really exciting things in the work for this year. And again, we're trying to make farmers more comfortable with the markets and the process to being able to seed this, harvest it, and then get this to market. So yeah, I think I'm done talking for now. I'll open the floor up to more questions.
Yeah, Aaron, RDAR is, thanks, Lori Jo, results-driven agriculture research. And I think they got $38 million in this new budget. So I think if we could all pull together in that one, I think we could have a real good information after it's all done. So that's very good lead by you, Erin. And yeah, anybody else has to share their knowledge?
Yeah, I think I touched on Clarence's time from cutting to raking to baling. I think everyone has a different time period in that, and depending on your conditions, if you're getting some really good humidity at night and a warm up during the day and the cool down as well, you get some really good retting conditions. And that's again why we try and harvest before that seed set, is it also provides some really good summer days, when we get some more dew at night and you get the warm up during the day, that it allows for some really good retting then. So in total, we're probably retting from 4 to 6 weeks. If we start to have customers that require even heavier retting, we've seen leaving it out to that 8 to 10 weeks if we can still. Or we've done a little bit of winter retting trials this year, so we'll be able to get some more results just to see how the winter retting looks as well. But obviously down in southern Alberta is some different conditions, a lot drier, but you also might have the ability to do some irrigation retting. I'd be curious to see or hear if anyone else has done any of that.
Frank Cote here. I was just wondering if I could ask a question.
Sure.
Erin, you're mentioning that, with your sickle mowers type thing, you're laying the product down flat, basically there. A lot of producers, I don't know in your area as much as maybe up here in the Peace Country, but everybody does pretty well zero tillage. And there's always a lot of straw matter that's left out on the field, in the fall after combining and stuff like that. And the incorporation of that biomass, I guess, is non-existent. Now, as a livestock producer, or past livestock producer and still forage grower, I know that when as soon as you put a sickle, or not a sickle, but a rake out in the field, you're going to be picking up all this biomass product out underneath and mixing that into your hemp fiber. So how do you guys get around trying to alleviate that problem so you have the better quality of fiber in your product, I guess?
It is definitely all on the raking and the tedding. So because we're tedding when it's still quite green, the stubble stays, and so we're just trying to take the stalks that are cut. So your operators definitely need to do a good job to make sure you're picking up all of that straw. But we've seen we still leave, depending on your cutting height. If we get a really nice, smooth, well-rolled field, we'll cut at, 3 inches, kind of 4 inches stubble height. And then we'll be able to really pick up all of that, the cut fiber, and you're left with a really nice, actually, straw bed. So we've seen our farmers said that they really like seeding actually into hemp stubble the year after, direct seeding. It's kind of similar, they said, to like corn stalks, actually. So it does break down after we've gone in and removed the bales. It does break down quite nice over the winter then to seed into directly the next spring. But obviously, if there's stalks left behind, then you're going to have to either heavy disc to put those stalks in, or do a harrow and then just burn up any of the small remaining stalks that might be left. But it's all because we're tedding and raking when it's still quite green. We still do leave a good amount of stubble still.
Okay, I understand that's for the year after, but the year that you're actually picking up your product, you're going to be picking up a lot in our area, whether it's canola stubble or wheat stubble in that sense. If you're raking out there, you're probably going to end up picking up a lot of that stuff off the ground in your final rake before you bale. So that's why I'm curious to see how you guys have been managing that.
Yeah, that's pretty much, obviously the rakes are going to grab as much as that's still laying there. That's not actually connected still to the ground. But we don't have to put the rakes right to the wood. You don't have to, agitate the dirt. So you can adjust that tedding and raking height as that field sees fit. But we do notice, because again, the stalks are, relatively green. A lot of that like plant biomass is then back kind of returned after we bale. So there's quite a bit of like green plant material, the flower, a little bit of like immature seed. All of that's kind of returned after we bale. So we're doing some soil analysis this year for the first time. So we were doing them before. So we would do a pre-seed before we would put our hemp seed in. Then we did a soil analysis after harvest. We're going back to all of those fields and then doing a spring fertility and total carbon analysis as well, just to really see what is still in that soil, what was removed, what was returned. So we'll keep everyone kind of updated on a lot of those data results from this last year, probably in the next few weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Martin, are you there? Jesse?
Hi, Manny, I'm here. Yep.
Yeah, you got any questions?
No questions. No, it's all very informative, Aaron. Thanks for sharing.
No problem at all. And again, it's this is a collaborative effort. We know what we're doing is not just the key to it all. There's going to be constant improvements and upgrades and tweaks and inputs from people in different regions that'll really help us do this. And again, we're this unit that you're seeing in the screen in front of you is meant for more northern Alberta rougher fields. Getting that clearance height a little bit lower, that center of gravity will allow us to go a little bit faster in fields, be a little bit smoother. We're even looking at putting on just a single axle in some of those smoother wheels with kind of like Baylor style tires, just to be a little bit more floaty. But yeah, I think this is something that's relatively cheap that, farmers don't have to go spend an arm and a leg on. We built these last year for around $65,000. I think our total all-in cost was. That's with our engineering, with all the fabrication, hydraulics, everything. So I think on a large commercial level, we can probably get that cost in the 50s to 60 grand. So it's a pretty reasonable cost to be able to harvest your fields, and the reliability on it. They're all Schumacher knives and drives and sections and stuff that's readily available. We try to make it. I think that's the key we're seeing in the issues of this lovely world we're living in, issues along the supply chain, waiting for parts and back orders seem like they're more common than anything being in stock. So having obviously North American made parts, conventional replacement items will be key. And so that's what we're trying to work with North American manufacturers. And hopefully in the next couple of years, this will be something that is sold at your local dealership, and that'll really help us get more acres in the ground.
So Aaron, what about somebody who wants to start? One thing you shared with me, that whatever the research you're doing or whatever equipment you're developing or licensing, at the end of the day, it will be all public information, so the public can come and share your knowledge. And I think also maybe you welcome people to now join you to give you any experiences or anything like this. You want to share that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, I think the province in itself has a really exciting opportunity for both single purpose in the north and dual purpose in the south, and kind of a gray area in between kind of Edmonton to Calgary. I'm hoping Blue Skies is able to continue expanding into this province, and you're going to see an increase in dual purpose crops, obviously also with Inca down in the south, but having more dual crop varieties and markets will also increase this. So working with producers down in the south, whether it's for pedigree seed production up in the north, or as a dual purpose straw provider for other decortication facilities. So I think there's a great opportunity in this province to really expand both dual purpose and single purpose seed production in the south, and complementing what's then grown for single purpose fiber in the north. So, I mean, I think we're restricted right now in the varieties that produce well here. We just don't seem like we have the long the long summer harvest calendar that they do either in the south or even in Ontario and Quebec in the southern regions. Will, maybe you have some input on Silesia, how that seem to grow here. And can you see those monaceous varieties doing well for seed production down in the south? Do you think you have enough days down there?
Hello, anybody from the south?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, our experience with Silesia is quite limited, just 1 year, but yeah, the maturity wasn't a big problem for us, but it seems like there may be other issues growing monoecious varieties that, require more roguing and other things. So yeah, right now, that's kind of all the information I have.
Fair enough.
Hey, Aaron, it's Dan Madlin here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, good, thanks. Hey, I probably missed it. I was a little late, but at what moisture content do you bale? And then, so how do you check that? And then what about after the baling? Like we've had, our system's pretty sensitive to moisture, and some are and some aren't. But how do you ensure that the bales stay that moisture and don't get wet? So do you have tricks on that side of it?
We just use normal bale probes, like a straw probe. So I guess the silage industry would have all the same kind of tools just for testing their moisture content before they bale. But yeah, we're pretty fortunate in our areas to get dry when it's at time of bale. We haven't actually seen some really wet falls where we had issues getting to that moisture content, but we aim for that 10 to 15%. We've done some in that 17, 18%. But we've never actually seen anything come into the plant that was at that 20 or higher. So we will definitely probe it out in the fields to make sure that it's there. But it seems to really hold that moisture content quite well if it's baled at that appropriate interval. So, and then stacking it on the right ground in the right areas is also key. So the round bales, we find obviously shed water quite a bit better than square bales, and making sure that you're up on a high ground. So if we get lots of rain, those bales do shed and they dry out quite quick. So even if, you get a week straight of rain, it doesn't really seem to alter that more than a couple inches into the bale. So your first couple unrolls of a round bale might be a little bit more moist, but the core seems to preserve quite well in Alberta.
Yeah, I could maybe add something through experience. We're just small, but one of the issues we had was the bale, they're out in the field, and then it snows a few inches, and then you stack the bales on each other. And our experience was they started to silage really quick.
Oh, yeah.
Temperature got up to about 40 degrees and in the middle of winter, and that created that the fibers got super soaked. And like you, most of the bales dry quickly, but these don't. And so I just like to throw that out there, just as we're sharing experiences, I guess.
No, those are good notes. And yeah, if there's lots of snow on them when you're stacking them, and then that it thaws at any point, and then it has really nowhere to go. So yeah, I could definitely see it causing some heating in there. But yeah, and that's again really on the management of those bales. We've tried to blow off any of the bale stacks that seem like they're just absolutely covered before processing. Would blow them off a couple of days before a big stack, before it's then brought into the plant and they start to melt it all. But yeah, that's a very good point, is making sure that there is no moisture in those bales at any point while they're being stacked, or you could have some serious heating issues.
And then you don't cover them with a tarp or anything, it sounds like.
No, we got close to 30,000 bales now stored in our lot. So it'd be the world's largest tarp.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's, again, right, you don't want bales sitting for years and years. You can process them still. They are going to degrade a little bit, and you're going to see some inconsistencies, at certain points of that bale. So hopefully we get to a point where bales aren't, being stored for years. They're being consumed every year, and then new biomass is produced and then stored for a short amount of time.
Yeah, how long, I mean, we're kind of looking like we're just cleaning up old stuff pretty well. And so when it gets to be 3-year-old bales, a lot of times the top one's not very good and you have to discard that, or the bottom one. But anything beyond 3 years, it kind of gets pretty iffy. I don't know what your experience is.
Yeah, up here, we processed some bales from 2018. And I would say, the top ones on the stack are near garbage. The middle ones were still okay. We've also processed some from down south. It seems like they obviously get quite a bit less rain. So we've processed some that were actually 7 years old and were still quite good. So it just really depends how they're stored and how the elements treated them over those years. But up in northern Alberta, I don't imagine bales are going to really last more than 3 years before they really start to degrade.
Thanks.
And and that's always the difference between round bales and square bales. I think we've definitely seen a big difference in the watershed and just the ability to preserve from square bales to round bales. But round bale processing is quite a bit harder, and then hauling the round bales is quite a bit more of a pain in the ass. So I think there's pros and cons to both of them. We're going to add square baling also to our round baling fleet this year, but I think we have 7 round balers and we're going to have 2 square balers this year. But I think going forward, we'll probably shoot for more of a 50-50. But we just don't know really quite yet what is the best solution. Or is it 6 months a bale is it good for, or is it okay for leaving it out for a year and a half?
Thanks.
Yep, no problem.
Aaron, it's Russ Crawford here. I got a question for you. Your equipment here is obviously, as you mentioned, sort of single purpose harvest focus for your business. But what about, and you talked briefly about dual crop. I'm just wondering if people are aware of pieces of machinery that are coming, into the industry that are suitable for dual cropping, whether it's for CBD and straw, or for seed and straw. It's a completely different looking piece of equipment, obviously, but some of the technology is the same, the cutters and that sort of thing. So I'm just curious if anyone has any knowledge of different pieces of equipment that are would be available or for people that are looking for dual crop opportunities.
Manny, do you know if Paul's on the call?
No. Hi, Paul. Are you on the call? No, doesn't look like it. Sorry.
Because I know Klaus has one and John Deere has one. That's they call it dual purpose harvester. See if I have any pictures of that one. But it's expensive. It is a pretty significant piece of machinery. It's more oriented towards CBD and seed, and then the fiber kind of third priority. So it does that same thing. It cuts it all in one pass, but then windrows it immediately. So if you're getting, half a ton of an acre of finola straw, you might get away with, windrowing it right off the bat and it being okay. But, we're trying to promote that higher quality, well-redded or evenly redded straw. It just allows for, a higher price point to the producers. I think we're going to see price points really established over the next several years as decorticators come online and understand the parameters and are able to price feedstock. So that kind of dual purpose straw that's unevenly redded, I think will probably be in that $50 to $75, maybe $80 a ton. Whereas well-redded single purpose fiber can pay $250 a ton. So we're trying to maximize not only our quality and our consistency as a decorticator, but then maximize returns on the farm. So making sure that we're all aligned is important. So, we definitely like to see investment and new equipment come into this province. And I think expanding the seed industry will directly then expand the fiber industry. But yeah, if there's producers out there that want to invest $1 million on one of these dual purpose harvesters, that's awesome to see. It's definitely a commitment and investment to the industry, and something that I think would be more orientated to larger producers. But yeah, I haven't actually seen one landed and purchased here yet in our province. So look forward to that day.
So it's a work in progress, and that's an opportunity to develop something in Alberta or work with other big players.
I mean, I'd like to see Case and, John, and that's the thing, John Deere North America actually has nothing to really do with that particular unit. It's through Hemp, Flax, and John Deere Europe. So to order actually one of those units, you can't even order that through a local John Deere dealer. You have to go through Europe, which is kind of strange. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if we're going to develop much for dual purpose here in this province. It is, like I said, it is next to a combine, and then to then separate that chaff off. It's a pretty serious piece of machinery. So we would love to obviously see New Holland or any of these large North American manufacturers produce something here. Because again, the US is pushing for this as well. We're not specific here in Alberta. This needs to be a development across North America.
So, Russ, what do you think? Where should we go with this? Or that's how slowly the industry will develop? And any comments there, Russ?
Excuse me, I go back to the chicken and egg thing here. I mean, if there's demand for the product, the farmer will make the investment and the industry will provide the equipment. So, creating a demand, which is what Aaron and Dan and Inca are doing, and Blue Sky and others. So I think that's the priority one, is to get the buyers established and looking for product, and then ultimately we'll get more efficient ways to harvest those crops and create better yields for the farmers. So it starts at the demand, but I've seen some equipment. So there's prototypes out there, and there's lots of innovative guys working on these kinds of things. We've in Europe more so for sure, but I was just curious if it's finding its way here yet, or if we're still in that create the demand phase, which it feels more like that to me. And that's not a bad thing. It's just the evolution of the market. So we're on the right path for sure here. And the knowledge that we're getting from other countries will help us advance that as well. So just like we've been sharing the developments in agronomy with the rest of the world, we can get some of those benefits back, particularly on the fiber side. And Aaron, I know you've been over to Europe a few times, doing missions to learn more about the business. And that's how we share this knowledge. And I think the industry's well connected to do that. So I think we're moving in the right direction, and I'm really happy to see Alberta taking a leadership role in that. So away we go.
Yeah, away we go. And then a little bit of a mix up right now, but as part of our ARDAR project was actually bringing over one of the Institute's agronomists to really help provide expertise on agronomy, on harvesting, and on decortication. They've been doing it for 100 years over in that part of the world. Unfortunately, they're at war right now, which is just a whole other crazy part of this world. But hopefully we're able to help them out and return things back to normal, because yeah, there's a lot of value from the rest of the world to bring to this industry. So yeah, do some praying.
Aaron, Paul is on the line. Hi, Paul.
Hey, Paul.
Hey guys, sorry, I had a calendar mix up this morning, but I'm here. I apologize.
No, all good. We just been chatting the last kind of 40 or so minutes just about different harvesting equipment, and Russ brought up the good point of the dual purpose harvesting equipment. And I know you've had some chats with John Deere, and you said you're thinking of bringing over one of those units this year. Is that still the plan?
We'll see. Like the further and further I go down this route, we're going to bring one over. Yeah. I don't think, I think the main reason we're going to bring it over is just mostly to harvest seed. But you know, the more and more that I think about it, and I've had a couple talks with you about this, I don't think if we use existing equipment properly, I actually don't think it's necessary. What are your thoughts on that? And that was a different thought I had than even a month ago.
I mean, if you're just going to harvest seed, then I probably wouldn't bring one over. But I mean, it'd be nice to really see how those units do work here on our dual purpose fields. It's I think a potential also for chaff collection, which I don't know how big that market still is in Southern Alberta or even in Alberta in itself, but yeah, I mean, for
Yeah, sorry,
doing
Aaron,
harvesting,
I meant to say it's not necessary at all for harvesting seed. Sorry.
No, I would go with, yeah, your conventional combine, and I'm sure Will and the Quattro guys have a lot more experience in that on what they do to combine and make adjustments, but it seems like there are conventional combines out there that seem to work well for harvesting seed. But yeah, dual purpose, I think doing it in one pass would definitely be a lot easier for a lot of certain cases. And again, if farmers don't want to have to worry about after they combine, then another crew coming in or another harvesting unit to come in to do that, you know, the cutting, the tedding, the raking, and he would like to do that, it is an easier way to do that. So yeah,
I do think they've got a ways to go on that, though. Just with from what I've seen, and I think other people have seen, just with the amount of stoppages they have with that equipment. I don't know if it's suited for the acreages that we're kind of looking to do compared to what they're doing over in Europe.
Have you chatted with the Kloss guys at all? I know the Change Ag out of Manitoba, they said that they've been playing with some Kloss dual purpose harvesters.
Yeah, we've actually had a few calls with them, and their harvest rates are like slow as molasses in January. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, Will and you guys down south, how do you feel for combine and your current equipment for harvesting seed?
Yeah, our biggest issue is just, you know, that the tall varieties tend to mature kind of unevenly, I think, and we're getting some, you know, more harvest losses, you know, of the grain before the crop is ready to go through the combine. You know, in our environment, it seems that, you know, some of the plants dry down a lot earlier than others, or more unevenly maybe than in a, you know, area with higher humidity. So, you know, that's why I think that swathing of short varieties has really worked well for us compared to some other areas. So I'm not quite sure how best we would try to produce seed of tall varieties. I haven't got a good answer for that yet.
Have you ever tried or heard of anyone topping the crop, like say after a month of seeding, to try and keep the height down and then letting it regrowth and then harvesting the seed? You probably are going to get maybe a little bit less yield, but would that help with, would significantly help with the height issue?
Yeah, no, I haven't heard of anybody doing that on purpose. I've seen Hale do something similar to that, but Hale tends to be not very uniform. So you'll get some plants knocked off at ground level and some, you know, just the tops broke off. But it would be an interesting trial, even just to do, you know, 1/10 of an acre, just do a pass with a swather or something, just to see what it would do.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Maybe something to look a little bit further in, because yeah, when we're talking about, yeah, we want these awesome producing fiber varieties, but it's how do you produce the pedigree seed for it in an economical way? Because you're also probably going to get a lot less pounds per acre of seed. It's going to be more of a pain in the ass to harvest said seed. And we're trying to obviously keep the price of that pedigree seed low for the biomass producers the following year. So they all have to align.
Yeah, and then the biomass grower is probably planting more seed per acre as well. So that kind of a double whammy effect then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're 50 to 60 pounds an acre. Yeah. What about, do you do much broadcasting in the south, or is it too windy down there?
Sort of broadcasting what?
Like for seeding?
No, I don't. I've never actually seen anybody do it. I mean, it may have been done, but generally everybody's trying to do kind of precision depth control, with, drills that, are fairly precise so that we're, getting good germination, good emergence.
Which makes sense when you're doing it for grain. You're not as worried about that tight row spacings, and that's why we want to get. That's in our area we've actually seen the best results from broadcasting, probably because we a little bit different soil and a little bit more moisture in the springtime, but because we want 15 plants per square foot, and a lot of the seeding equipment seems to have 12-inch row spacing, or you can tighten it up a little bit, but we want a lot tighter density on the plants. So that's why we've seen some really good results from broadcasting.
Okay, yeah, I hadn't thought about that aspect of it.
So, and then, and if we can, depending again on moisture at that time, if we can do a light harrow and a roll, and it allows us to do a really nice job of harvesting as well too. And we can remove a lot of that straw because we can pick up quite a bit of that stuff. So yeah, the more the seeding and the management of that field aligns, everyone just benefits. Well, Manny, anything else?
We are recording. Sorry, I should have told you earlier. We're recording this presentation, and maybe if people have, even you can send us an email that what else you didn't get a chance to ask the question, or where do we go from here? I guess it's a work in progress. So whatever the knowledge is, we're going to continue to gain more knowledge and maybe put it together, so that way we do become. Alberta becomes a knowledge center for harvesting. So have we covered anything in seed, or we're just about done with the harvesting for the time being?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned what we had in our RDAR project. So,
Yeah.
But I mean, there is, I think, 60 varieties on the LOAC this year. Quite a few of them probably are inactive and not really available, but there are quite a few varieties now, out there for producers to grow. So it's, there's been quite a few varieties added on the dual purpose for more flower, a little bit higher CBD percentages, but I still don't think those producer or those processing markets have established yet. So it seems like that's been the bottleneck. But yeah, we need, and projects like this RDAR project will hopefully really help develop the fiber industry and the dual purpose fiber industry. Instead of dual purpose seed and flower, we want seed and fiber. And I think, that's where we need to focus in Alberta. I think CBD is something that's, could establish later on if market demands are there, but I think we truly have an advantage here to do seed and fiber. So yeah, I mean, I think this year will give us some really good results out of this RDAR project for agronomy, for field selection, for harvestability, and then the resulting fiber that's produced from it. So I think this will really help, growth factors in many parts of our industry.
Mm-hmm. Great. So I guess, Clarence, we haven't heard from you. You want to share some knowledge?
Hi there, Manny. I can, if you can direct me on which way you wanted that knowledge to go.
Well, if you wanted to comment on what Aaron has talked about, the equipment and seeding from soil to decortication, if there's anything you're seeing about equipment or anything we should, connect to, whatever you feel, I'd like to hear from you, whatever you have to say.
Yeah, well, on the equipment side, like, the planting wouldn't be a whole lot different between what we do on the grain side of production versus what Aaron is looking for on the fiber, other than the fact that you're seeding at a much denser rate. So, Aaron's group wants to get, a dense stand, and you're looking for those long, slender stalks. And, that's probably the biggest difference between what we recommend as far as seeding rates and what they do. We're trying to keep that cost of seed somewhat economical. And, from our standpoint, Aaron, you mentioned a couple of the varieties that you got coming from us. So, we are trying to keep that cost per acre reasonable, and using the trade-off between the volume that's being sold versus the price per pound. So trying to get this fiber industry off, because it's going to be, the more markets that we have for hemp in general, whether it's fiber or the fractions or what we do on food, the better it's going to be for the industry overall. So we're trying to do our best to, get a leg up on this industry with the fiber side. The quality of fiber that Aaron's looking for, as he's saying, it's a younger harvest or a younger fiber. So there's no opportunity or little opportunity on the grain side. And Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you put fiber through the combine, it really changes the value that you can see from what you need on the fiber. If you let it mature and harvest the grain, it's good for us, and we can create a return on that farmer's investment. But it's going to have a negative effect if it goes through the fiber, at least for your market there.
Yeah, it's really it's the glues and the lignins that really set into that stalk once that seed development starts. So and that's why it needs the red a little bit more as well. But it just limits what you can do with the fiber. So that's why, establishing price points and specifications for that hemp straw or fiber on the fields will be key, because it's going to be a price point. It's like, okay, if you do this dual purpose harvest and put it through the combine, expect to get this price per ton. But if you do it this way, then expect to get this price per ton. And just knowing that those different harvest mechanisms do result in significant quality changes. So that's, right now, I think there's just, one type of fiber out there. It's, the decorticators, we're all in a feeler period of trying to figure out what is acceptable biomass to continue to run smoothly. And, that is important, right? It's consistency in material.
Yeah.
Especially if you have one decortication line that's, meant for specific parameters. It's tough to, if you get one set of bales in that's been lightly redded through a combine, and the next one is more green material that's longer stalks and a different variety. And it really is hard on the decorticators to adjust those parameters and then maintain specific qualities on the output. So yeah, understanding your feedstock from the producer level is definitely key.
Yeah. Now that said, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't make a mention to the other fiber processors that are on the call here. And for their systems, they actually don't mind if it goes through a combine. And from what I've been told, and I'm no expert on this, but if it's broken up a little bit, there may even be some benefits for having that fiber broken up and then going to other processes in other markets.
Absolutely.
So it all depends on what the end game is, and we're certainly available to pick up the grain portion, but again, that trade-off between quality on the grain versus quality of the fiber, we need to take that into account. So if there are any growers that are looking at a dual purpose market where they're going to harvest the grain and get that fiber collected, we need to have discussions just to make sure that the quality parameters on both sides of those markets understand what's going on and what the end product is going to look like.
For sure. Yeah, I think no matter what if it's a primary contract and a secondary contract, and you need to understand that the quality of that primary shouldn't be reduce in any sort of fashion to complement the secondary. It's always going to be where you make your most return for the producer, but at the same time, just understanding what is then needed to complement that second source.
Yep, exactly. And the varieties may differ as well. So, you listed off a bunch of varieties, and they're all quite tall and dual purpose type varieties. Somebody who's looking at a grain market, they may not want something that's going to be 7 to 8 feet tall and go for a shorter variety. So again, that'll have an impact on that fiber quality. And again, I'm not going to speak for whoever's looking at buying that fiber. They'll need to give their own recommendations on what sort of specs they'll need. But that's where we need to start at this point in time, talk about varieties, talk about quality, and how the dual market may exist or coexist.
And honestly, you're right too, as well, as there are varieties of straw that are still out there that, result from, farmer growing, Finola, and just keeping that variety and East Swasset or whatever is left, there still is a market for that, fiber, and just understanding really what the resulting economics are out of each bale. So if you say you have a bale of Finola, what is going to be the resulting percentage of fiber that you get out of that? And then same thing with Grandma or Joey or Silesia. It's just that fiber percentage after decortication is really going to be where that price point establishes. So more information for produce, because again, you're right, we can utilize in some markets, and like animal bedding and hempcrete, those markets seem to be really growing and have a high demand. So if those are really good hemp producers after or herd producers after decortication, then that's an opportunity for that biomass. So there's definitely options for every variety and every feedstock. It's understanding the markets on the back end.
Yep, bang on. So Manny, does that kind of touch on some of the things that you were thinking of there?
Yeah, I really appreciate, this kind of input because, I think we have spent an hour discussing this, and I'm sure we're going to have further discussions on this. Is there anybody else who hasn't spoken yet? Would you like to say something or share your knowledge in any way, or any questions you have? So Aaron, I think it was a good show. Should we just then, I guess, close the meeting then, if looks like there is no other questions at this time?
Yep, that sounds good. If anyone has any particular questions or is interested in talking about seed production or fiber, we're available. So happy to answer any questions after.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. And thanks, Aaron, for chairing this meeting.
Not a problem at all, Manny. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have yourselves a great day.
Bye-bye.